Okay, we're going to, starting a drop early. We're going to try to finish the Maamar. If not, then we will have to try to finish it tomorrow, maybe before Shabbos. Let's bring up the daf. Okay, so we're learning the Maamar on Vayeshev. We're talking about the difference between Chesed of Avram and the Chesed of Yishmael. And we asked the initial question, why is it that Yaakov was intimidated when he saw the descendants of Eisav? So we're going to just continue where we're holding Sifhei. Pisa, you've been, based on what we said, explained before, that the real power of chesed in this world is via humility, via bittul. And even if and the idea is to try to tap into the gedula, the greatness of chesed that's beyond where chesed is limited through the tzimtzum of, say, the shtaltos. Nevertheless, we're going to learn that it has to go still through the process of bittul, and we'll see how. We're going to learn first what are these. Who is Eisav? What are the generals or kings of Eisav? As the verse says in Vayishlach ve'elu hamelachim asher malchu be'eretz Edom lifnei melech malach lifnei Yisrael, that these were the kings that were kings of Edom, meaning on behalf of Eisav, before the kings of Israel. And the Holy Arizal teaches that these kings are the seven kings of chaos. That they come before Tikkun, meaning before the world of Yaakov. And they could say, because they come first, like the Eisav says, I came first, I was here first. Means they were the kings before the kings of Israel. Means they came first. These were the kings before the kings of the Jewish people. The fact that they came before in time, the mata that expressed itself in this world, meaning they were kings. Actually, they lived in a time before the Jewish people had their kings, starting from King Shaul and David, etc. Because they also had a claim to be first, because they also have something unique about them that's greater in a way than the kings of Yaakov, and therefore they came first. Within the system of creation, they are before the limitations of the world of Tikkun, because Tayu comes before Tikkun, chaos comes before structure. And why does Tohu come, the world of Tohu, the world of chaos, although it was corrupt, but its initiation before it was broken vessels comes first, is because it has something a kadima b'mayla, something unique that's about the world of chaos, that therefore on that schus, on that merit, it comes before the world of tikkun, the world of fixing. As far as the power of the lights go, as we explained many times in Chassidus, the powers of the lights of the world of chaos are great, more strong, more powerful than the lights of the world of Yaakov, the world of Tikkun. Leirak becomes not just in quantity, even more so in quality. That the lights are just not just larger in size, but actually larger in quality. When Yaakov sees these great lights, the great powers of Eisav, yes, he could see that they were corrupt, but he sees that they were corrupt from a huge place. How is he going to fight that? How is he going to fight such great corruption that its source is so great? And therefore he was intimidated. Tama, he asked himself, how are we going to conquer the world of Eisav if they're so powerful? And why? Why are they so powerful in this world? Because at the root, before the corruption of the world of chaos, the lights of the world of chaos are greater in quantity and even more so quality. So then what's the answer? The answer is this week's parsha. This week's parsha says that Rashi says, therefore the verse says, Eileh Toldos Yaakov Yosef, that the answer to Yaakov's concern. And why is it no longer a concern? Because these are the children of Yaakov, the descendants of Yaakov is Yosef. What does that mean? These are the sons of Yaakov Yosef. When he saw Yosef, he saw, like we asked in the beginning of the Maamar, that now he has a way to deal with Eisav. Because the lahava, the flame that comes from Yosef, is going to burn down, so to say, the straw structure of Eisav. What does this mean? That he needed, because if he's concerned, then he had a legitimate concern, because Tohu is greater than Tikkun. So what does a Yosef help? So the answer is it's known. Yosef, although that we know that what was Yaakov's, how did Yaakov really personify himself? Who lived the life, who continued the legacy of Yaakov was through Yosef. Like it says, Eileh Toldos Yaakov Yosef, that who are the children of the children who lived in Yaakov's times, meaning Yosef continued the legacy. Like we say, everything that happened to Yaakov happened to Yosef, and Yosef is the one who became king. So we see, and there's many discussions the Rebbe talks about the connection between the Avodah of Yaakov and the Avodah of Yosef. Yosef goes further than Yaakov into the world. Yaakov comes into Mitzrayim. The famine stops because Yaakov is the world of Atzilus. The limitations of this world don't take place by Yaakov. But Yosef is able to change things within the system of creation. That Yaakov and Yosef are one. Nevertheless, Shel Yosef, there's something that is special about Yosef, more than just being an extension of the child and the oneness of Yosef and Yaakov. There's something that Yosef has, and this element that Yosef had is what relaxed Yaakov. Like I said before, because at the end of the day is Yaakov is tikkun, but in a way that's in the world of Atzilus. Yosef is able to go into the world of Biyah, in the world of separation, as it is separated and be effective there. Although you could say, well, what's greater, the light that overpowers the darkness, or the light that knows how to work within the darkness? In certain ways, the light is able to work within the darkness. Yosef is able to go into Biyah, and be effective there. That has something unique that's over Yaakov. He explains, because Yaakov is in such a level that he's one of the fathers, which is means to say he's one of the chariots, which a chariot is absolutely connected to God. Yaakov is in the world of Atzilus. The way Yaakov lives in an existence where it says the world of Atzilus there's no negative, there's no bad there. It's a world that's already fixed. There's no bad that rests within the world of Atzilus, which is the first most godly world. But Yosef is not in the world of Atzilus. He's able to go from Atzilus, although it describes that in the dream of Yosef, that Yosef's brothers are bound to him. He's able to elevate into the world of Atzilus, but he's also able to function in the world of Bria, Yetzira, Asiya, in the worlds of separation. Like it says, he's a mashpir, he's the supplier, he's the provider, the chol amor, to all the people who live in all the worlds. Meaning to say, his power is, and again, the ability to function and to penetrate and to fix in the world of separation as it's separated is something unique that Yosef has that Yaakov doesn't have. That's why Yaakov was so impressed with Yosef, that he was able to stay the same Yosef even under the circumstances of being in Egypt. Yaakov himself says, I was in Lavan and I stayed Tayard mitzvahs. But that Yosef was able to be the viceroy, working servant, going all the way to be a slave in the pit and out, and be the most powerful person in the largest empire, and still be Yosef, that was a chiddush. So he's able to bring the fixing of the world of Atzilus further into the world of separation. You read the Mitzrayim, he's able to even go to the darkest place. The darkest place in this world is Egypt. Erebus Haaretz, the most corrupt place of the world. They levar berurim, and be effective to find the sparks. We know the Jewish people in Egypt, and Yosef did most of the job for the Jewish people in Egypt. Was able to have 202 of the 288 sparks that are lost. You read this in Shalom Yidua, as is known that this is why the soul comes down to this world for the same purpose. Like Yaakov, the soul is not broken, doesn't need any fixing. The soul doesn't come here to fix itself. It gets elevated by fixing, but it's not lacking anything. So why does it enclose itself into this dark world, and the challenges of this world is only to be effective, to fix this world. The Olam Hazeh, this physical world. This Avodah of this time of the world means that's going to finish with Mashiach. But from creation, and specifically from Lech Lecha, from God told Avram, Lech Lecha, started Avodah Sabirum, like the Rebbe Rashab says, which is the Avodah, the service of refining, finding the sparks in the light in the darkness and elevating it to its source. And there's many ways of doing that. There's when we make a bracha on the food, when we build a house for Hashem, when we build a mizbeach, everything that we do, that we take the material and turn it into an opportunity for a mitzvah, and that's in the positive commandments. And when we restrain ourselves and control ourselves from doing things that we shouldn't be doing, that is how we engage in those sparks and elevate them and bring them back to their source. And only because he goes down to this world of separation, and because he's being effective there, find the sparks, elevate the sparks. Each spark has its own host, and when he engages the host, whether to transform the host or to engage in the host or to restrain himself from not becoming part of the host or engaging with that host, depending if it's a prohibition or if it's a positive commandment, that's how he elevates the sparks. And only when you're effective, now he says, only when you're effective in this world, and you bring the sparks, and then the world of Atzilus, which is all godly, but also it's limited. How do you bring the chesed l'gav, which we spoke about yesterday, the unlimited chesed, the chashem gedula, the way chesed projects itself, because it's not limited, is only when you do the avodah in this world, because then the chesed, the higher chesed, comes into the world of Atzilus. But if you just stay in your space without engaging, without risking anything, so you have everything, but you have everything limited. And that's why Yaakov, in the place of limitations, felt limited. And how am I going to fight Yaakov? Eisav. But when Eisav is starting to be effective in the world of separation, then he's also bringing even a stronger light in the life of Eisav. Like we said before, when a person who's the one who speaks of the four species, right? That when we sustain ourselves from eating or finding shelter or finding clothing from the domem, the so to say the lifeless, the growth, the vegetation, and the things that are alive. So dafka, then we get our elevation. So too in the worlds. But just like a person, which is also has the utterance, it says, "Nasad and let's make man." Nevertheless, needs to come on to the food or the shelter to survive in this world, because there's certain lights that are in the food and the shelter that are greater than the utterance of saying "make man," because "make man" alone would not keep a person alive. So too, if you break it up in the worlds, the person, the world of the person is the world of Atzilus. But just like a person needs to come on to the vegetation and food and shelter to live, so too the world of Atzilus, in order to get the extra life, needs to come on to the worlds of Biyah, the worlds of creation, formation, and action, which are represented by Domem Tzmeach Chai. Because the domem, the lifeless things, and the vegetation and the animal kingdom are corresponding to the worlds of separation, formation, and action. Creation, the worlds of creation, formation, and action. And the person himself or herself is corresponding to the world of Atzilus. When a person goes into the world of, so to say, the world of separation, like in the animal kingdom, etc., just like the person gets extra energy by consuming, by eating the animal, eating the vegetation, taking shelter from the stones, so too the world of Atzilus gets higher elevation, higher lights by going and being effective in the other worlds. If you stay in your space, so you're protected, you're not vulnerable, but you only have limited amount. But how does Yosef have the power to go and be effective in the world of separation and not get corrupted himself or lost in that world? And that's the relationship. It means Yaakov empowers Yosef. He himself can't be effective there, because if he goes into that space ceases to exist. He can't be the separation and Yaakov at the same place. But he can empower that Yosef draws energy from Yaakov to be effective, so to say, from the energy of Yaakov into the world of separation. Maamar Eileh Toldos Yaakov Yosef. That's why it says these are the children of Yaakov Yosef. So Yaakov, when he sees that he's able to expand through Yosef into the world of separation, and by doing so, he's able to bring down greater lights, the greater chesed into the world of Atzilus, then he realizes that it's nothing to be intimidated by the great lights of Yaakov, because he gets greater lights by doing the Avodah, where Eisav has no Avodah. Because he fixed everything in his space, he's able to empower Yosef to go and take the power, like the coach who empowers the player, goes to go out and empower Yosef to go out and be effective even in the world of separation. That's why it says that the soul descends down. We don't say the world was created here. Although the soul is a creation, like we say, Ata Barasa, you created the soul. The fact that we're emphasizing that the soul lowers itself. We're showing the idea is not that it was created in the space, but you should know where its origin is from. Why do we say that? Because when we tell the soul where you come from, so then the soul is not scared, and the soul knows that it's empowered by its connection to Yaakov Avinu, be effective in this world of separation. Because had we not had Yaakov to say Eileh Toldos Yaakov Yosef, to hold on to Yaakov, to our Rebbe, right? You have a shliach out in the middle of nowhere. How does the shliach have power to be effective and not get affected, etc.? Is because he knows who the Mashaleach is the Rebbe. And if we didn't have that connection in Yidei, who would know? The very fact that you know where you come from, that itself is an empowering piece of information to keep strong, to keep focused, and to get the job done. And that's where the neshama has something unique over other creations. Though the evolution of the soul also goes through a process of creation. That's the way godliness becomes a creation. Not that God creates, but godliness itself becomes a creation, which is the nefesh elikis, the godly soul. Therefore, it means that the soul is able to be conscious where it's coming from. And other creations doesn't have that level of consciousness, which is the world of Atzilus, the world of Tikkun, that's greater than Toyu at its source. And therefore, Yosef has the power to be effective with Eisav, with the world of separation, because of its connection to Yaakov. Eileh Toldos Yaakov. And Yaakov felt, how are we going to go deal with Yosef, with the Eisav? Eisav has these great lights, it's corrupt, it's broken. Yaakov is in a world of fixing, but he doesn't have the power to, he can't engage in a way to fix it. Yaakov comes in, he overwhelms, but he knows that he has Yosef. So we say, how can we conquer all these lights of Eisav? The only intimidation is where you see things in the chain of creation that Tohu comes before Tikkun. But when we see Yosef, how it's connected, Bipnimius in its core, with Yaakov, which is the Olam of HaTikkun, the Yosef, when Yaakov sees that Tikkun could go in, Tikkun that's fixed, could go into the world of separation through Yosef and be effective there. That Yosef stays the same Yosef. Yosef stays Yosef at Tzaddik, in Mitzrayim, and he's nevertheless also capable of engaging with everything that Mitzrayim needs. Not just that Yosef is able to survive Egypt, he becomes the king in Egypt. When Yaakov sees that, then he knows that there's a way to deal with the darkness of Eisav, which is from the source, comes from a great source of light. As I need to Yosef and therefore the spark that goes out from Yosef, the flame that goes out from Yosef, burns in a way of positive, giving, from the word kolos nefesh, giving, infusing creation with its passion for God. And means we get rid of the external of Eisav. By days of Megalas Pinim Yusuf, and then you could show what the real world is, what's really happening in the world. You could reveal in Eisav and the world its core, its source, getting rid of what had happened externally, how it fell and broke. Then you show with the world how great the world on its own is, and it's Yosef who gets to have that operation. He's able to get it done. He's able to refine, shine it, and fix it to Maila and to elevate it, the Sharshim Makari to its source. Because at its core, before corruption, before falling down, because the root where Yaakov comes from, before the whole Seder Shalshus, because Yisrael all of Machshavah, before anything came into existence, it was the thought of the Jewish people. And in that core is where Yaakov has the strength to empower Yosef to be able to fix the world of Eisav, That's why God loves Yaakov specifically over Eisav. And the Rebbe finishes off the Maamar. We could add and point out this is connection to the 19th of Kislev. Rosh Hashanah, we know the Yutas Kislev, which we just completed, is the New Year's for the Torah Chasidus. We find that our Rebbes have mentioned. We find that when did the Rebbes talk about the idea that they mentioned, so to say, the God, when they say the discourses, they want to mention to remind God that He loves Yaakov no matter what, unconditionally. On Rosh Hashanah, on the New Year, before we have to get the blessings for the New Year. God, the Rebbes remind Hashem, "V'oivas Yaakov, you love Yaakov dafka." Rosh Hashanah even when the world is being judged, the Jewish people are being judged in our Gashmias. We remind Hashem, "V'oivas Yaakov, you love Yaakov." We have to awaken within God His choice of His inheritance of the descendants of Yaakov. And the reason we have to point it out because we're at risk. When do we say that God could choose, so to say, the Jewish peoples when there's a choice? If it's no choice, then you're not choosing, right? That's one of the rules of Bechira Chavshi, is free choice. It means you have to have equal. You could go either way, and God chooses Yaakov. So in order for God to make sure that He chooses Yaakov, we say Yaakov, that notwithstanding that the brothers, you choose Yaakov. You have to choose one. Because if there's a reason, then that's not called choice. The reason dictates the choice. And the Bechira Chavshi is true free choice. Eisav Yaakov, that they're brothers. And nevertheless, we tell God, notwithstanding, yes, there's no reason you should pick Yaakov, but you love Yaakov anyways. Why? Because at the end of the day, is the whole world was created for the Jewish people. And the pneumius, the inner kavanah, the inner intention of why anything came into being, was for the Avodah of the Jewish people, and for the fact that they're for the neshamas of the Jewish people. Therefore, we have to mention this also. The idea of Hashem loves Yaakov when it comes to the Rosh Hashanah Chassidus as well. Pnimis Torah, when we're coming to teach, this is the new year for the inner secrets of Torah. And through the secrets of Torah, the inner core of Torah, it reveals the inner core of the person's soul. As God says to look at Panai, look for the inner core of myself. As Panecha Abaya, the inner core of God I'm seeking. And then through that we have the power to find and to reveal the inner core of the world, which is not the chitzonius, the external, how Eisav is corrupt, but the inner core of the world, how it's holy. That the holy spark which is in the world of chaos, that's been refined, and shined and elevated to its source through the Avodah of the Bnei Israel, which is represented. That's why we say in Golus Yosef, that we have the power from Yosef in the hardest times, in the darkest times to be effective. And therefore, the Rebbe benches us. And Zoichem, we should be merit. Shana Taiva, we should have a good year. The Limud HaChassidus and the teachings of Chassidus, the Darkei Chassidus and the ways of Chassidus. And in our ability to spread the wellsprings outside, as started after the arrest of the Alter Rebbe in Petersburg and on Yutas Kislev. And through doing the avodah we have to do specifically, Mayanas Chutza, we bring the wellsprings outside. We're going to merit the complete and true redemption. Through Mashiach, David Malcolm Mashiach, King David, Bar Nafle, as it says in the Gemara, he's going to come and redeem us. He's going to bring us upright. Eretz Yisrael, Maamar speeding in our time, and I know when we'll fast at the end, but I have another Zoom I have to get onto. So it's a beautiful Maamar, and we did it a little faster at the end, but Baruch Hashem, we completed it before Shabbos, and Mirz Hashem, next week we'll learn something on a Maamar on Hanukkah.